The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
As I make a contribution towards this bill, it's not surprising listening to the contribution that the government won't support this bill to first reading and referral to select committee. Heck, they don't support registered teachers in charter schools, so it's no surprise. But here's the thing, and I hope that common sense does prevail, because there's every opportunity for this bill to go to a select committee and be heard concurrently to the review that's being undertaken by the Minister, because that review will show what the State of Care report has shown, that more work needs to be done to ensure that in the space of social work that there's a lifting of professionalisation of it, and registration can help. I agree in part with the comment that was made by the previous speaker about the transition time, but it's 12 years since 2003 and a voluntary registration method, and there's some urgency to ensure that those most at risk in our communities and in our schools have the opportunity to have access to registered social workers who are able to participate in different response models in the community where it's needed most. We've all visited our community organisations, our social service providers, and they've all told us, whether they're social workers in schools or in faith-based organisations or community providers, that now more than ever before there's a real need for social workers who are registered, who have best practice approaches to some of the most challenging situations. In fact, community providers will tell you more than anyone else is that the benefit to the family, the whānau and the children that they're working with of having a registered social worker will lift the outcomes for those families who need it most. Mr. Speaker, some of the challenges in 2003 will remain the challenge today, which is the cost of moving towards a registration program and the cost to community organisations. All those issues can be considered at select committee. I visited a number of Māori providers, and they will highlight and amplify just how important it is to have access to social workers, let alone registered social workers. And right now, they'll make do with whatever they have, but they do want access to registered social workers, because best practice matters, because the families that they work with have the most severe and urgent circumstances that require a different approach. Social workers today working in our communities are working as a part of multidisciplinary teams. We've had social sector trials in the Waikato. We've got the Family Safety Network. We've got the Child Safety teams. We've got Family Start. All of them have access to social workers. All of them will say that they would benefit from registered social workers. The transition time, yes, is an issue. The cost is an issue, but they would never ever say that not having a registered social worker would make a difference. They would actually say having a registered social worker across that profession would ensure that they are getting best practice delivery in the services that they're providing. Mr. Speaker, I support the intent of the bill, and I recognise that urgency is really important when we think about our decision to send it to select committee. There are outstanding issues that can be addressed, whether or not a one-year transition time is sufficient, but we need to start now, because 12 years on since 2003 and a voluntary system was brought in place, we can do this concurrently with the review that's being undertaken by the Minister. And it's necessary. It's necessary because children, mental health patients, people with mental health, suffering from mental health, refugee and migrant communities, women who have been victims of abuse, men who have been the victims of sexual abuse, all need access to qualified, registered social workers. There are not enough there, and there's certainly not enough registered to ensure that the professionalism, the best practice approach that they should have access to is available. This bill will help that outcome.
I call Matt Ducey.
Rising to speak to the social workers registration.